Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be wrapping up Group B and talking about the teams that were able to go through for the quarterfinals and the two teams that have been left behind here on She Scores Bangers. Plenty of celebrations for Germany and Spain as they're able to move over to the quarterfinals, whereas the journey for both Denmark and Finland ends here. The deciding game that allowed Spain to go through was against Denmark. In order to advance, Denmark had to win, where all Spain had to do was just avoid losing. To really seal the deal, Spain was able to get a 90th minute header goal. Spain was going with a 4-1-4-1 formation with Garcia up top as the main striker. Now, we have previously discussed this, but obviously Spain is going in a little bit wounded without Alexia being in there, as well as Jenny Hermoso. Vilda's come out and said he's very much confident in the squad and he has a lot of players that can step up and take on these roles that Alexia and Hermoso have. Now, has that happened? I don't believe so. I think the fact that he has not really chosen a natural striker is a big hit. He has picked Lucia Garcia to be the main striker for this game as well as the game for Germany, and to be honest, as much as I rate her, I don't know if she's doing her job as a striker. She had Caldente and Aitana Bonmati behind her, which I think Aitana has been having an incredible tournament, which is no surprise to anybody. Aitana de Calcio finally got her first start of the tournament as well. The fullback behind her was Leila Wahabi, and on the other end you had Ona, who again has also been having a spectacular tournament so far. Denmark over here had a little bit more of a defensive lineup. They were going with a 5-4-1 formation with just Pernilla Harder up top. Now, when I looked at the formation, the players that were going to be involved, and just the overall performances that the two teams have had going into this game, I thought this was going to be a great battle between frequency and efficiency. Over the last few games, and even this game, Spain was very much dominating possession. Possession usually was in the midfield, specifically a little bit higher from the midline of the pitch. That possession was moving throughout a lot of the players. There was a lot of short passes, long passes, just how the Spanish play. So their frequency of the ball, their frequency of the possession was very much going forward, attacking. Now the big question here is how efficient were those attacks? If you also look at the game they had against Germany, they had the majority possession. Overall had more attacks going forward. What they didn't have is any goals, and what they didn't have is more shots on target. And this is where they lack efficiency. They are very frequently going forward, but they're not very efficient in converting those forward movements into goals. It doesn't matter how much possession you have. It doesn't matter how many times you're moving the ball or passing. If you're not scoring, you're not going to win. And if we are to look at the same category of frequency and efficiency for Denmark, the rate of defending was very high. The frequency of being in the back was very high. And for the majority of the 90 minutes just before that goal went in, they were very efficient in not letting the Spanish score. So for them, it was a positive correlation between high frequency and high efficiency. In fact, I would say when they had a lot of counterattacks in the second half, or just whenever Pernilla Harder had the ball, or the Nadia Nadim later on, when they were going forward, I would say they were quite efficient because they did have some very dangerous counterattacks. So you can almost wonder and ask the question, if they were more frequently able to attack and press and go forward, they already had that efficiency. The stats almost do favor them to be a little bit more efficient going forward. Could they have scored? For the first half, I thought they were going to come out defensive, really test the waters, see what Spain had in mind, see what Spain had in their pockets, and just how was Spain really wanting to attack. Going into the second half, I expected Denmark to switch things up, to switch the formation, have a little bit more players go forward, have a little bit more attacking players on the pitch overall. And again, it's understandable, you don't concede, you don't lose, but they couldn't draw and they couldn't lose. They had to win that game. They were the team on the pitch that needed to win. Spain could draw and still move forward, so Denmark needed to come out and literally at least get a goal. I don't think we really saw that. We did see Nadia Nadim come on. Obviously, Harder had a very phenomenal game, as she does. She's a world-class player that never doesn't show up. You could talk a lot about star players who don't show up for the big stage, but Pernilla Harder is one that definitely always shows up. And she is the type of player that you can leave forward where she can take on an entire line of defense and the goalkeeper and get a goal. So it's not very odd to see Pernilla Harder be thrown up top on her own, but I feel like when you need to score, you really need to support your striker. And I would say the Danish manager definitely let their team down because you needed to score. You were not giving Pernilla Harder the service that she was getting. The most of the service that she was getting was off counterattacks, which again, were very dangerous. This time around, I feel like Denmark really was missing that killer instinct, that kind of organization, that chemistry we usually see. They didn't have a very great opening game against Germany, losing 5-0. But what a story. The last year's runners-up are exiting at the group stage. Also had quite a disappointing campaign. They only scored one goal against Spain, which actually, they were leading Spain in that game. They didn't win any games. They didn't really have any standout players. Their goalkeeper Corpella was definitely on fire. They're also hit with a few COVID positives, including the goalkeeper going into the Germany game. Throughout the 3 games, they pretty much got dominated in midfield. I think that's one area they definitely have to improve on and spend a lot of investment and money to really build up a solid midfield. That area was pretty much their downfall. They were getting exposed left, middle, and right when it came into that midfield spot. But for now, they have to go home and focus on qualifying for the upcoming World Cup. Now for the group leaders, Germany, who scored 9 goals, conceded none, won all 3 games in a very dominant fashion. They move on to face Austria, and if we are to revert back to that frequency efficiency talk, they were frequently defending, and they were very efficient in defending because they didn't concede a single goal. So just right there, defending wise, frequency high, efficiency high, very good. And going forward, they didn't necessarily have as many attacks as Spain did, or they didn't have as much possession going forward as Spain did, but that didn't really matter because they were so very efficient in their attacks that all they needed was a few shots and goal, and boom, they scored 2 goals. Pop has been able to get 3 goals, 1 of each in the last 3 games. She's been having a very, very good showing in the tournament. In fact, in the 9 goals that they've scored, they've had 7 different goal scorers. That tells you a lot about quality and just the talent that they have up front. Not to forget the talent that they have in the defense, because they've also conceded none. The midfield is filled with a lot of leaders, tons of experience, and players that just know how to play football. And I think a lot of people have been talking about how much depth England has on the bench, but Germany has, I think, just as much talent on the bench as well. Speaking of rookies, Clara Bull, who's only 21, has been also having a great showing. She started the last 3 games as well. But then right beside her, you have 31-year-old Pop, who again has just scored 3 goals in the last 3 games. So your veterans are picking up form, your youngsters are also picking up form, and the experience behind it just backs it all up. So I think their game against Austria is going to be very good, because Austria is a very organized team that doesn't bite into your game plan. They stay very focused, very disciplined in what they have to do. So that is a game that people should not underestimate, because both teams are very, very stubborn, you could say. They play very stubborn. So this wraps up Group B. We have 2 more groups to go, Group C and Group D. Let us know your opinions and your chances of rating the teams going forward, as well as what you think the 2 teams that were left behind missed on doing. As always, make sure you subscribe to us here on YouTube and follow us on Twitter to stay updated and to continue enjoying the beautiful game. I will see you later.